Hello everybody, it's Sarah, and sorry for not uploading on Thursday. I was maybe just a little bit, just a tiny little bit sick with the flu. I don't know if you can still notice that I have a bit of a stuffed nose still. But yeah, after having been sick like 2 weeks ago, it got me again a few days ago. So much worse. I have felt the shittiest I can ever remember feeling, with the exception of cancer, obviously. Yeah, for people who regularly have to deal with the flu or flu-like symptoms, I am so sorry. I was hardly able to handle it. But then again, maybe I'm also not the right person because I have a really hard time staying down when I should be staying down. Like, I can lie in bed for hours if I'm healthy, but if I'm sick, no. I always have something to do. So yeah, anyway, I was feeling like shit on Thursday. I had a fever for the first time since at least 20 years ago. Definitely since I can remember. Definitely since my parents can remember. There's like only one concrete time that my mom can remember that I had a fever. And that was because I had something going on with my intestines that I needed an emergency surgery to not die. So that was the last time that my mom can remember me having a fever. So yeah, I was feeling like shit. Also, because of that, I still have cold sores. We're going to ignore those bastards. And let's talk about what we're going to do today. Today I am going to tell you all about my most anticipated releases for 2023, or at least the first half of 2023. But before we get into those releases, a few infos out of the way. I actually won't talk about all of my anticipated releases because, as some of you, most of you, all of you, I don't know, might have heard about, there's currently a HarperCollins union strike going on. And for strikers, no, not the strikers, for reviewers, the strikers have asked for following, support for reviewers and blurbers. If you're able, please hold your reviews, nominations, and any other content until we have a fair contract. And so I have decided to not mention any of my anticipated releases for 2023 that will be published under HarperCollins or any of the imprints. I also, obviously, in the next few weeks or however long this is going on, I will try not to mention any HarperCollins releases or, well, books, or any of the books from their imprints. I might miss some. I might have also missed some today because honestly I am so bad at figuring out which imprints belong to which publishers. I basically just went to the Wikipedia page and yeah, I might have missed some. And anyways, I don't think most of my content will be in any way impacted by that, because like 90% of what I'm reading is either Tor or Orbit, and as far as I found, neither of those are HarperCollins imprints, so we should be okay there. But anyway, that's why you might miss some releases from 2023 that you might have thought you might see on my lists. That's the first thing. And the second thing, as always with my anticipated releases, I did look up like one time what each of these books is about. I have forgotten that again for most of these books. So if you expect this video to be informative, what these books are about, it's not gonna be it. With some books I can say 1 or 2 sentences, with some books I can say the genres, with other books I can't say anything except that I like the cover probably. So yeah, let's get into it. Also, I have 20 books on my list. I will be looking down a lot because obviously I have the list on my phone. And yeah, I think we'll get into it. It's gonna be 20 books. It's gonna be long enough. Let's get into it. So the first book I'm excited for 2023 is The Keeper's Six by Kate Elliott, which comes out on the 17th of January. This is a novella. I believe it's gonna be published by Tor or Tor.com. And if I remember correctly, there's dragons It's kind of sci-fantasy because there's like some world hopping going on or something along those lines. And I believe it's about a mom trying to save her kidnapped son. That's what I know about it. It sounded really interesting, so I put it on my list. Actually, before I continue on, it's really funny because most of my most anticipated releases for 2023 are only coming in July and August. So a lot of the books on here are either new books, books that are sequels, but that aren't like sequels that are like very, very high up on my list, or that are some of my most anticipated releases. But that are just releases where I'm either like, hey, I've been reading the series for really long, and so I'm excited or somewhat excited, or I'm waiting for this release to happen, even if I'm not necessarily excited for it. Or, as I said, it's kind of new books where I don't even know what to expect. But the second release I have for 2023 is Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare, which comes out on the 31st of January. And this is, of course, the third book in the Last Hour series, which is so far the, depending how you count it, fourth or fifth of the series within the Shadowhunters universe, or the Shadowhunters Chronicles. It's the finale of the Last Hours. I've been reading Cassandra Clare for so long already. I mean, if she really comes out with a new series once again within the Shadowhunters Chronicles, I'm not sure if I'm gonna start that one. However, I do want to finish the series that she still has going on and that I haven't finished yet. So, you know, I'm waiting for Chain of Thorns to come out. Then next I have a book that I think is self-pub, and that's The 11th Cycle by Kian and Ardalan, which comes out on the 1st of February. This is the first book in a series, which is called Mistland. It's, I believe, grimdark fantasy, and it's published by an author who apparently is German or grew up in Germany. However, he has Persian heritage, or he says on his bio website that he has Persian heritage. I really love this cover, to be honest. It looks really interesting. There were some things, especially with how he phrased some of the trigger warnings, also trigger warnings surrounding disability, in the summary of the book, where I was like, I'm not too sure about the phrasing of this within the summary. However, regardless of that, I'm still interested to see what this book is about. And again, I'm a sucker for a good cover, so yeah, I just kind of had to put this on my list. Then my second February book is another book that I think is self-pub, and that is Shield Maiden by Sharon Emmerichs, which comes out on the 2nd of February. This one, I don't know if it's historical fiction or historical fantasy. It's a story, I guess, that's probably gonna be inspired by the epic of Beowulf, but it follows Beowulf's niece, and that's all I know about it. I didn't continue on reading the summary after that because I was sold already, so I didn't need to continue on reading it. I'm really bad at reading summaries, by the way. So then continuing on, we have two books that are coming out on the 21st of February. The first is The Magician's Daughter by H.T. Perry, which I'm not sure if this is the first book in a series or not right now. I don't remember it. But this one is historical fantasy. It's set at the beginning of the 20th century, and magic has kind of vanished from the world. So it's kind of alternate, so I don't know if it's a parallel world or secret underworld or alternate history, whatever, but anyway, in this world, or in this history timeline, magic has vanished, and we follow, however, a girl or a young woman who has grown up on this island off the coast of Ireland, and she has always known magic, and I think it's about discovering why magic has vanished or bringing it back or something along those lines. I don't know. It's whatever. It's a pretty cover, and it's historical fantasy, so obviously I'm gonna put it on my anticipated releases. Then the second book I have for the 21st of February is Sister Maiden Monster by Lucy A. Snyder. This is a kind of apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic type story where we follow 3 women, I believe. And there's this virus, and there's cannibalism, possibly, and fucked up shit. And I think it's kind of, you know, psychological horror, supernatural stuff going on. I don't know. It sounded really interesting because the main characters sounded really interesting. Also the cover, I really like the cover, so I put it on my list. Then for the last book for February, on the 28th of February, we have A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon, which of course is the prequel to The Priory of the Orange Tree. Now, when I first read The Priory of the Orange Tree, I gave it 4 stars. Right now I would probably give it 3 stars because in retrospective there's just a lot of like not issues necessarily that I have with The Priory of the Orange Tree, but I think I just was so hyped that it was the first really big book that had like, or big adult high fantasy that had queer representation. Of course it wasn't the first fantasy book with queer representation. I should know that. I have read plenty of older books with queer representation, but it was one of the first books with queer representation that was really pushed, and that was pushed with the premise of it being a queer adult high fantasy. And I think because of that I was a bit nicer on the book than I would be now if I had read it now. Nevertheless, I still want to read the prequel to it. I want to see if Samantha Shannon improved in her writing, if I still have the same problems with it. In terms of what I've read of the summary, I'm actually a little bit hesitant already, because I think there's just parts mentioned already where I'm not necessarily sure if we need that. But I'm still gonna be interested to see what's going on and where it's gonna go. Continuing on with March, we have 2 books that come out on the 7th of March. First, I have The Queen's Price by Anne Bishop, which is the 12th book in the Black Jewel series. Although I would say that like within the Black Jewel series you have like the first trilogy, then you have 3 books that are like kind of a prequel, and then 2 books that are kind of connected to that and that also kind of fit together as a trilogy. You have 2 short story collections, you have 1 standalone story, and then you have the last 3 books kind of work as a trilogy once again. And so this is going to be the finale of this other somewhat trilogy, I guess. And I'm really excited for it. As you all know, the Black Jewel series is my nostalgia favorite. I wouldn't say it's my favorite series of all time anymore, but in terms of nostalgia and in terms of what it just means to me emotionally, it's still definitely #1. So yeah, I'm really excited for this one. Also, I hated the first 2 covers like of this last trilogy. I hate the new style of the covers, generally speaking. However, I for some reason think it really works for this one. I don't know, it looks really nice. Then the other book that comes out on the 7th of March is The Faithless by C.L. Clarke. Now this cover, just like every queer woman on Twitter, when this cover dropped, I lost my shit. I just absolutely lost my shit. And if you have seen my review of The Unbroken, you will know that with all the criticisms I have for Luca, because you know you're not supposed to root for Luca, I do love her. I love her a lot, so this cover, I love it. But anyway, The Faithless, of course, is the sequel to The Unbroken. It's the 2nd book in the Lost Magic series. I think is it Magic of the Lost or the Lost Magic? So it's Magic of the Lost. I just looked at my book up here. Yeah, it's the 2nd book in the Magic of the Lost series. I enjoyed the first book, like I really enjoyed the first book. I think I didn't rate it. I think it was like 2021 was the year where I didn't rate books. But I think I would have probably given it like 3.75 stars. And I am very excited to see where the story continues on to. So yeah, the ending of the The first book was intense, so let's see where it moves on to. Next is a book I did not even read the summary for. I have no clue what it's about. Well, I know what it's about because the title is kind of self-explanatory, and the title is also the reason why I put it on this list, even though it's not even a genre I usually read. But the title is A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon by Sarah Hawley. Also comes out on the 7th of March. So we have 3 books on that date. And yeah, I don't know, with a title like that, why wouldn't I put it on my list? Like, I'm not the biggest romance reader, which is an understatement. I don't read romance. I do, however, somewhat want to get more into fantasy romance sometimes, so I thought, you know what, it might be a good start. Then next I have a book that I don't know if I should call this an anticipated release. This is a book that I'm just gonna read because I have by now read 28 books in the series. So am I gonna stop now? Obviously not. And that book is Smolder by Laurel K. Hamilton, which comes out on March 21st. And it's the 29th book in the Anita Blake Vampire Hunter series. So yeah, obviously I'm gonna read it. Continuing on March 21st, I have a second release, and that is The Lies of the Atungo by Moses Ode Utomi. And this one is a novella. I'm not exactly sure anymore what it is about, but I believe it's a desert fantasy, if I'm not completely wrong. Then I have another self-pub, and that is Your Darling Death by Lauren Carter, which comes out on the 1st of April. This one, I believe, is written in second-person narration, and it's written by Lilith to Adam, possibly, or to the devil. I think it might have been the devil. One or the other. But concept-wise, as far as I gathered from the summary, it very much works like A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. So you have a female narrator who, in the second-person narration, tells you why your relationship did not work-ish. I'm trying to not spoil A Dowry of Blood, basically. And so that's why I'm kind of interested to see where this is going. I'm very hesitant because A Dowry of Blood was just gorgeous and amazing, and so a book that sounds like concept-wise it's so similar, I feel like, you know, my expectations could be just very difficult to deal with when I read that book. But nevertheless, I'm still interested in, you know, reading it. Then another novella is The Untethered Sky, which comes out on the 11th of April by Fonda Lee. This is, I believe, science fantasy also, possibly. I don't know what it's about. Like, I have to be honest, I looked at the cover, I saw that it's Fonda Lee, I saw that it's her first release since obviously finishing the Greenbone saga, and I do not care what it's about. I did not even go and look it up what it's about. I did not even go and look up the genre, obviously. On the 18th of April, we get The Bone Shard War by Andrea Stewart, which is the 3rd and final book in the Drowning Empire series. Have I read the 2nd book yet? No. Do I still look forward to the 3rd book? Yes. Because I actually did not read the 2nd book on purpose, because I saw that the release for the 3rd book was pushed back. And so when the 2nd book came out, I was just like, you know, if I'm gonna read it right away, I'm gonna have to reread it once the 3rd book comes out. And so I've been waiting for this release. Another novella is The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Caw, which comes out on the 2nd of May. This is about mermaids, and it has some horror vibes, and I don't remember anything more about it. Also, the cover is gorgeous. I love this cover. Then the book I'm probably most excited about from this list for the first half of 2022 is Warrior Girl on Earth by Angeline Boulley, which also comes out on the 2nd of May. And Angeline Boulley, was the author, or is the author, of Firekeeper's Daughter, which was one of my favorite books of 2021. I really enjoyed that book, even though it was YA. And Warrior Girl Unearthed just fits right into my, you know, realm of interest, I would say. It is once again an indigenous mystery, I would say, or like Native American mystery thriller. However, we follow our main character, whose name I forgot. I think she's the niece of the main character from the first book, and she tries to get back an ancestor's remains from a museum. And there's a heist involved. So, you know, as someone who's very interested in discussions around decolonizing museums and how we can do that, how we can, you know, get to a point where ethnological museums aren't more their colonial past than they are places for coming together and learning about each other, which I think we still have a long way to get there. It's just seeing that there's a book about an indigenous girl trying to get back objects. Well, in this case it's not objects, in this case it's human remains, but you know, generally speaking, objects, human remains that belong to her people. It just makes me very excited, and I cannot wait to get to this book. Another indigenous book that I have on this list is To Shape a Dragon's Breath, which is the first book in a new YA series by Monique Blackgoose, which comes out on the 9th of May. And I also don't remember what this was about anymore. I think I already mentioned that it's YA, it's the first book in a new series, and it sounds interesting enough for me to want to pick it up, even though it's YA. Then another sequel I have is The Battle Drum by Sara El Arifi, which is the second book in the Ending Fire series. I think I remembered the name correctly once again. It comes out on the 23rd of May. And yeah, I really enjoyed the first book this year, so I'm excited to see where the series goes. And then the last book I have on my list, because for some reason I do not have any releases for June this year, is Witch King by Martha Wells, which comes out on the 30th of May. And this is going to be Martha Wells' adult fantasy debut. I did not read any of her Murderbot series because I am not the biggest sci-fi fan. That's a lie. Because most of the sci-fi I read I actually somewhat enjoy. But I'm not the biggest sci-fi reader, so I haven't read any of the Murderbot series. However, I like this cover and everyone keeps raving about Martha Wells, so I want to see what she can do when it comes to fantasy. And so yeah, that was it for my very rambly anticipated releases for 2023. If there's any more releases for the first half of the year, tell me in the comments down below. Otherwise, are you as excited as I am for some of these releases? And if you enjoyed this video, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All the links to my social media, as well as to my book club of Queens, Witches and Valkyries, where we read one adult high fantasy book written by a woman or gender queer person per month, will be left linked down below as well, so go and check those out, and I hope I'll see you very soon. Bye!